Okay, can you hear me now? I think we can get started.
Yep, let's get started.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Hello everyone. I'm Jackie, a community manager from zCloak, and today's topic is talking about the decentralized identity product and vision. And in previous news, we can saw some um, governments uh, start to use the DID protocol to replace their public identity in the future. So today's topic is to check on and to see whether DID protocol could be the main infrastructure that can be applied in our real world, and rather than just now every people talking about con price, how to talk token, when will the price will go, right? So this could be like good impact to our real world. And today we are going to discuss, and we have invited Wenyi, head of BD from CyberConnect, and our CMO Annabella from zCloak. Please welcome them to our today first AMA with CyberConnect. And can Wenyi start to introduce your link-free project now?
Hi, yes, sure thing. Thank you very much for having us. So, at CyberConnect, we have two core offerings. One is the CyberConnect protocol, which is a decentralized social graph protocol. And the other is Link 3, which is a product that's been built on top of the CyberConnect protocol. So, for this space, we'll focus on Link 3, which is essentially a verifiable network of identities that's kind of like a Web3 native version of Linktree plus Eventbrite. So the link tree part is what you would see when you go to a project's profile page. So they have all their official links there stored on Arweave and IPFS in a decentralized way. So yeah, you can essentially find out updates from the company and interact with them with knowing with 100% certainty that they are who they claim to be because they're verified by the CyberConnect team. And the Eventbrite part is a new feature that we just launched that we're actually also using for this particular space. Essentially, a lot of projects in Web3 host AMAs, but they're still kind of doing it in a way that's walking on Web2 crutches. So we wanted to create a tool to help projects manage these spaces and AMAs that do so very often in a Web3 native way. So we essentially created a Link3 AMA event management tool to bridge projects and their communities via issuing SVTs to prove that they were actually verifiably a part of the community building process and a part of the roadmap and the journey. So yeah, this is Link3 at a glance.
Okay, thank you, Wenyi. This is pretty cool because um, just a small promotion because this Twitter Space AMA is created by Link Free, so some of you can go follow CyberConnect's Twitter to see whether they will release some invitation code to you and to follow their Twitter and see there is any update, right? And
Yes.
thank you. Yeah. So today, and also let's invite Annabella to introduce our project zCloak. Please, Annabella.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. So good evening or good morning, everyone, depending on what time zone you're in. And my name is Annabella, and I'm the CMO of zCloak Network. I'm really excited to be here and to talk to Wen Yi, and I hope together we can bring you a discussion worth listening to, I guess. I want to introduce zCloak Network a little bit as well. So zCloak Network is a privacy-preserving DID and computing platform. It enables a new computation. We call it a new computation paradigm, where people can do computation or analysis of their data in user device, not in centralized servers like right now what they're doing in the Web2 world. And zCloak's identity and ZKP service can be served for major public blockchains. And our flagship product built on top of zCloak Network is zkid.app. And zkid gives users a full suite of W3C compatible DID and verifiable credential service combined with selective disclosure and ZKP computation. So with zkid.app, it's finally possible to I just want to throw in our slogan as well to prove who you are without telling who you are. Yeah, that's all of my intro part. Jackie?
Okay, thank you, Annabella. So today's discussion can be some open question, like maybe we can go for the first one. So what do you think about the DID track in the Web3 and existing DID project? Like maybe you two can raise some your opinion and to see what in the future, right? Or maybe when you can go first.
Sure. I think the DID track in Web3 is really exciting to me because one of the pillars upon which CyberConnect was founded was that we wanted to kind of migrate the social graph away from the way that it was stored in Web2, which is in centralized servers owned by big corporations. And we wanted to build up the infrastructure entirely natively in Web3 so that people aren't walking on the crutches of Web2, but instead they have this whole profile system and a way of curating their on-chain identity holistically in an entirely decentralized way. So I think it's really important for, Web3 to have its own foundation and infrastructure that serves as the bottom layer of every interaction, every social layer, and every identity in Web3. So I'm really excited about the landscape. We work with a ton of DID projects, and a lot of our partners are also super interested in the derivative use cases of what a DID can do. So yeah, it's really exciting to see all these different use cases and applications emerge from DID, and yeah, really excited to be in this landscape and work on something that I find personally very noble and philosophically aligned with me.
Yeah, and we do see different DID project launch on the Link 3. So guys, you may go to Link 3's profiles to see which DID project existing and to see whether this has some potential that you can apply maybe in your own Web3 project or the others. So how about Annabella? What do you think about the DID tracking?
Sure. Thanks. Thank you, host. And I personally think that today's Web3 DID projects can be divided into two categories. The first one is W3C DID projects, which are DID projects that conform to the W3C standard. And the other one is on-chain DID projects, which are DID projects related to everyone's on-chain identity based on on-chain data and on-chain addresses. So I think these two categories are like all emerging in our Web3 and crypto world. And I just want to point out that the closely connected with the concept of the idea is like a self-sovereign identity. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of this phrase. And so the core of self-sovereign identity enables users to protect their identity information and data sovereignty in a cryptographic way. So the DID technology is to a large extent the realization of self-sovereign identity technology based on blockchain and some new cryptography technology. And I don't know what the DID track is going to be in the future, but zCloak believes that in order to achieve greater development of the DID system, we cannot be limited to using only on-chain data. So that's why we want to combine it with Web2 user data as well. But I think the mechanisms and methods need to be taken careful considerations. For example, like the Tornado Cash incident. It has been begun to be regulated by OFAC, and voices coming from Europe and the US pushing forward to regulate the on-chain DeFi activities, in which an important step is to reinforce that KYC information to be used on-chain, which means user off-chain data will be included. So I think KYC is another important part of the DID that we're talking about right here. So I think, in other words, Web3 projects should not use the big data and cloud computing idea and mechanisms to process user data like Web2 projects do. But if we only focus on on-chain data, it's not really enough to form like a multi-dimensional user identity. And therefore, at zCloak, we think that when Web2 data can be freely used in Web3, the application scenarios of DID on-chain can be truly enriched. But we are really happy to see projects coming out and promoting their DID products, and we really hope that all of us can work to the direction that we're building, and the DID track can actually bloom in the crypto world, since it's, in my opinion, really useful. Yeah, that's all, Jackie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Um,
yeah, that's true.
Absolutely
Because
agreed. I really liked the point you made about kind of combining both off chain data with on chain data to really form a holistic identity, because that's, the philosophy behind the execution of CyberConnect and Link 3 as well, in that CyberConnect protocol has an on chain component as well as an off chain component. So you can basically, we actually provide all the basic social features as well as data that we pull in from Web2 social accounts combined with a set of smart contracts issued on chain for the part where you want to monetize your on-chain social experience and associate your activities with cash flows. And same thing with Link 3. There are verifiable credentials associated with it and things that are verified on-chain, as well as the ability for users to actually edit their profile and tell a story in a way that doesn't need to be verified. So yeah, I really liked that point you made about the flexibility and kind of how holistic it is to have a DID and profile that are both pulling in elements from off-chain and on-chain.
yeah, true. Because we saw Link 3 start to doing something like the event management, like right? They connect the Twitter and all the Discord. I think this could be something like the Web2 based software, like, and then they can connect with their on-chain data and to create a great experience to the people in the crypto world. So I think zCloak is doing the thing that we are connecting the maybe their personal identity and with their on-chain data. So different DID projects have their features, and we still don't know whether the one is best fit, right? But we try to find a way that can create different function to different scenario. This is now the existing DID project is doing. And so the next question is about is Link 3 more likely to be product? Because from a perspective, it's something like the company registration, and the project start to launch, or you start to verify verify from the Link 3, right? And can you share a bit more about the direction of the Link 3, and is there any use case in the future? All right. Thank you, Wenyi.
Yeah, so Link 3, essentially, the idea is for it to be a bridge between projects and communities in Web3. We want projects to be able to interact with their communities in a way that's entirely Web3 native, and in a way that comes with elements of verifiability and trustworthiness and credit. So essentially, right now, Link 3 is still invitation only, and we're gating it pretty heavily on the basis that we only want people whom we know and trust to be in the Link 3 ecosystem, especially when it comes to projects, so that users in the ecosystem are able to execute with 100% certainty and trust. So in the future, that circle of trust is going to be expanded upon, and we're going to leverage, the people who onboarded rather early on, to kind of expand, the ecosystem and kind of have this network effect of people networking in a very trustworthy and safe way. And with the Eventbrite feature, as I said before, it's kind of bridging Web3 projects and users. Because now that we have the layer of trust and verifiability, people want to be able to have derivative use cases based on that trust. So things like, receiving a badge from a certain project to show that they've been verifiably a part of their building roadmap. I think there are even more use cases in the future where there are other activities that projects would want to conduct with their communities in a Web3 native way, whether it's co-hosting campaigns together or doing community activities together or doing giveaways. No specific concrete idea of what exactly we're going to be doing in the future, but now that we've had the layer of trust established, I think there are a lot of things that we can leverage it for.
Oh, cool. It seems like they will have a lot of function in the future, right? Okay.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. So how about zCloaks? Be because we now we only see something like just zCloaks is more likely issue a Web3 ID card, and we can see in the past activity we issue different OAT and membership. So what's the plan for the zCloak in the future?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Jackie. I think Web3 ID card is an interesting way to put it. I think it's partially correct, but there's more to what zCloak has envisioned. And as I said in my intro to zCloak earlier, we want to provide a service where people can do computation or analysis of their data in user device, not in centralized servers. And I want to introduce a little bit about the technical part. So the integrity of user computation is proven by a Stark-based zkVM in a browser extension. And people can use their real-world data for, like, for example, DeFi, identity, biometric applications without disclosing their privacy. And our product zkid.app introduces a unique verifiable data registry for DID document storage using self-authenticating data structures. And zkid also comes with useful gadgets such as like zkid wallet and zkid login for user credential storage and privacy preserving interaction with any web or mobile app. And to answer the question of features or functions zCloak wants to achieve, we actually want users to really value their decentralized identity. So we are working hard to provide convenience for users in more application scenarios. And this is more related to what I said earlier about the combination of on-chain and off-chain scenarios, so that these practical use cases can actually form a habit among the users. Um, yeah, so yeah, that's basically our vision. And for a concept that we want to introduce is that the zkid.app product has a login function which allows users to generate multiple tags describing their identity and characteristics based on their own DID and verifiable credentials, and then log into any Web2 or Web3 websites. So after logging in, the third-party website doesn't know who you are, but what they can only see are your tags. And we call this process the user self-portrait mechanism, which is the opposite of the Web 2 user portrait concept. The Web 2's, I think the user portrait is based on big data technology, and by tagging each user's data, uh, it can direct targeted advertisements. I'm sure everyone has gone through that process. However, in Web3, although there are also tags and user characteristics that we are going to use, but your tags are generated by yourself based on your credentials, your verifiable credentials, not by someone else. So with these tags, Web2, Web3 websites and applications can provide users with a variety of personalized services. Um, yeah, sort of different from the Web2 way, and which should be very appealing to users who value their data sovereignty. Yeah, that's my part, Jackie.
Oh, that's cool. So maybe we can see in the future that um, the Web2 typed advertisement can be still applied into the Web3 world. Like we will tag a client, maybe he's uh, interested in DeFi more, or he's interested in something like maybe in NFT. So this tagging can help us to recognize the user's habit, right, Annabella?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So the user habit is one of the ways to keep the users in the loop, and it's really useful. So when it becomes a habit, it won't be like as intrusive as maybe now, since the product and the idea is kind of immature, I think. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's good to see how we can apply those things in the future. Okay, for the next, we can see now CyberConnect is on BNB chain, right? And zCloak is on Cloud chain. So it seems like the order identity is bounded on specific chain, but can it be pulled out from the chain and applied to the other chain, or the the identity need to be bound and in specific chain that is always bounded? So can both sides try to explain, um, is there any way that the product can be on cross chain, and is there any others application in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually not just limited to BNB chain, though they are one of the chains that we support. For the CyberConnect smart contracts, we're actually on mainnet, BNB, Arbitrum, Polygon, as well as, I believe, Optimism, but maybe not that just yet. So essentially, the idea is to create social infrastructure that could power a consistent identity across different chains in all of Web3. But obviously, technically, there is a barrier that we need to get over. It's something that would take a lot of developer bandwidth that we're not prioritizing at the moment on our roadmap. But in the future, we definitely do have plans to expand to even more chains so that we can provide this really consistent experience for users across Web3, so they don't have to be a different person on every single chain that they get to. But as of right now, I think we support already mainnet and quite a lot of EVMs, so the experience should be already pretty fluid.
Okay. How about Annabelle?
Yeah, so about chains, I think so I does a Web3 infused product necessarily need to be used on chain? So I want to explain how zCloak's idea works. So in zCloak's DID system, generally there are three parties: the user, the attester, and the verifier. So the user hold their identity data, do attestation to prove the integrity of their data, and use the generated credential to prove their identity to third parties. And then the attester, who has competence and legal authority to attest to the user's data integrity. And then the third one is the verifier, is any third-party organization who needs to do KYC in order to provide service to users. So this whole process actually doesn't necessarily need to be interacted on chain, but it provides the option to do it on chain or off chain. So yeah, so to answer the question, we can use zCloak's product cross-chain since the technology and the whole process don't really rely on any single blockchain. So we aim to make our product adaptable to all public blockchain ecosystem, and no, none of the identities or credentials is bonded to a specific blockchain. So the product can also be used off-chain in a diverse variety of application scenarios. At least that's what we're aiming for. Yeah.
So maybe we can see in the future zCloak's product can be doing in the cross chain, and also CyberConnect link free is nowadays is working on the EVM chain. I think it's enough for the existing product, but maybe in the future we can see they can apply in a different chain. It seems like it's good, um, and we can, yeah. This is what the two hosts is answering about. Okay, let's go to the next question. We can see zCloak is a project that can connect offline identity data to online DID, right? So how it's how is this achieved, and what are the application scenario in the future? And how can the zCloak's product help to prevent the privacy data leakage problem? Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Jackie. So I think, of course, especially in the Web3 world, not all data applications need to be carried out in a privacy preserving way, that's for sure. And this is also a very attractive concept of the Web3 world. some information on chain, I think, such as participating in an event, working at an organization, or being members of several DAOs, etc. And these public informations are already on chain and can be completely disclosed on chain in the form of maybe SVTs or others, without needing to be concealed. So there are already many excellent DID projects, including Link3, that use on-chain data integration to provide users with this service. So whether in the form of SBT or domain names, name services, I think it's more convenient to use tools like this to collect on-chain and some of the off-chain information and put them into use. However, if we're talking about preventing privacy data leakage, there are at zCloak, there are actually two steps in the process. So from the user's point of view, the first step is the attestation process, and user provides identity information to some trusted entities. And after that, they check the user's identity. They will return the attested identity data to the user in the form of a verifiable credential with a digital signature, and then completing the attestation part. So this process doesn't really concern the privacy problem because these entities already contain users' identity data in the Web2 world, because they are the organizations that issued you your ID, or maybe it's like a hospital or your school or something like that. And then moving on to the second step, where users take the attested credentials to prove to other project parties that they meet their compliance requirement for users. So simply put, it's just KYC basically. In the verification process, these third parties send a ZK program generated by themselves to a user device and do the computation locally to do the verification. So since both data and computation are kept in the user's hand, and like zero part of the whole process require the disclosure of any kind of user information, and especially zCloak will not touch any part of user data. So the results of the verification will only come out as yes or no to the third parties. I think it's safe to say that zCloak is trying to help prevent the privacy data leakage problem, but we're still on our way and there's still a long way to go. Yeah.
Okay, can I speak in this way? So we have an authority that already have the user's personal data, but he can become a tester to verify. But in the other way, when the user send his personal data to the third party for verification, he does not need to disclose his own data. So it is the way for them to protect privacy leakage.
Yeah, I think you made a great conclusion. I think that's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Annabella. So for the next, what is the method that the CyberConnect and the zCloak use to do the KYC for the user? Maybe when you can have
So
first.
we don't actually do KYC per se because that comes with a lot of legal implications, and it is quite a niche application that you need to do a lot of background work toward. Essentially, some projects do use our data to have a better understanding of their users because essentially we have indexed and scrubbed the data in such a way that it's very organized, and it's a pretty easy and simple and clean way to look at what your users have been doing on chain, what have they been doing off chain, like holistically, who really are they as a person. So yeah, essentially we just aggregate and index data from both off-chain and on-chain data sources, and we provide it in these data packages so that so the projects can have a better understanding of what their users have been up to, but we don't technically do legal KYC.
Okay. How about zCloak?
Yeah, before that, can I ask you a question, Wenyi? So, when you're talking about like off-chain data, can you specify like what kind of off-chain data does Link3 or does link 3 try to include? Because I think
So we have on-chain data like NFT display, right? Or your verifiable credentials, but then we also have data that you can yourself curate, like putting in links or whatever it is. And we also pull in data from Web2 social accounts like Twitter. So if you log into your Link3 account, you can actually link your Twitter and your email. And then it's also a part of the offerings that we have for CyberConnect protocol as well, in that we offer both data aggregated from the Ethereum mainnet data pipeline, but as well as different accounts you can log in but as well as different accounts from Web2 social media platforms.
Okay, I see. That's actually very interesting too, because I think Link 3 is more like, want to provide a holistic identity for a user, like when you said earlier. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, correct. That's right.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I think
Thank you.
although we're both like our projects are both in the ID track, I think we're doing very different things, but it's really good for the users because they can have different tools to use.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let me go back to Jackie's question. Sorry, it went off a little bit. Yes, so KYC. So one of the application scenarios for zCloak series of products is actually KYC itself, and I talked a little bit about it in answering the previous question, but now I can make I can make an example, so maybe you guys can understand it better. So let's take a user who wants to seek a loan from a bank as an example, and the bank acts as the verification party who wants to check whether the user's situation is eligible for a loan, and the bank will send the data items they want to check, they want to verify in the form of a plain text ZK program, and the zero knowledge proof computation is performed locally on the user's device, and then the result is returned to the bank, which is a yes or no result. And then in this way, the user can prove to the bank that he is eligible for the loan or not without really showing any of their own data. So that is a very typical use case for zCloak's KYC service, but it's just I think it's only a small part of zCloak's vision, and that's how we have both authentication and protect user privacy. Jackie?
Okay, thank you for the answering. So, it seems like Link3 only connect social data, so, social platform in the Web2 to their Link3 account, but zCloak will try to connect their personal identity in the real world to their real to their Web3 account. This these two DID project is really in different track, so we can see how um, maybe in the future the both projects can apply in different scenario, and we can see how it will change, how this infrastructure will change the whole Web3 ecosystem, right? So maybe here's is the last question, and then we will go to the Q&A section. Okay, the last question is talking about Link3 is similar to the Web3 version of Link3, right? Because we see that the Link3 will try to connect. There is a showcase of their social platform, and with many function. But will Link3 try to develop an application focused on SoFi, or is there any other ultimate goal that Link3 try to achieve? So.
Yeah, so I think this question is pretty similar to one that I talked about a little bit earlier about, the more long-term goals of Link 3 and what other features and applications there could be. Essentially, the ultimate goal is to establish a really strong foundation of a network of verifiable and trustworthy identities, and then build different applications on top of that, trusted network of people, whether it is for networking purposes or for, bridging the gap between communities and projects, or for even individuals to be able to create their own platform or community on Link3. Essentially, we want to be able to be an ecosystem that hosts a lot of verifiable identities that can then, kind of associate their social experience on there with maybe cash flows or, things of that sort. So yeah, essentially, it's kind of similar to CyberConnect in that we want to be the provider of a very solid infrastructure and trustworthy ecosystem so that people can execute any kind of activity in there with certainty and trustworthiness.
Oh, that's cool. So I think you answered you answered this question in the previous question. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
excuse, Jackie, can I ask a follow-up question?
sure.
Because I kind of want to ask Wenyi, about how you think about, like, the social aspect of Web3, because I think DID could be a very interesting tool to use in social graph as well. And I see that Link3 has a little bit about, like, a friend request and stuff. So do you think it's going any direction, other direction in the future, or yeah?
Can you clarify your question? What do you mean by other direction?
Because I just for now it's not completely, going to the social fi direction or the social graph direction. So maybe, is there any other plans for your for Link3? And also, what's your take on the social application scenario of DID?
Sure. So I can't disclose exactly what we're trying to, have Link3 become in the future because there are a lot of different moving pieces at play. And essentially, right now, we're really focused on just, making sure that whatever feature it is we do ship actually has a really strong utility and is able to facilitate users with a better Web3 social experience overall. And then on the other side of the question, about Web3 social, essentially, I'm a really big believer of, when you have a product, when you have a new product, it should be solving a problem that people haven't been able to solve in other ways. So Web2 social does a lot of things absolutely fantastically. There's great UX, there's a lot of utility. People, other than the data privacy part, are generally big fans of, the type of experiences that are able to have with platforms like those. So essentially, we have to ask ourselves the questions of, why does there need to be a Web3 native social infrastructure in the first place? What kind of mission exactly are we trying to achieve? And what kind of new value proposition are we able to add by building things on chain? And I think with the CyberConnect protocol, our latest update, which is the issuance of a set of smart contracts that essentially help developers build social experiences that are associated with cash flows on chain, as well as community gating and SBT issuance and their own profile system. We're focused on, the creator data content ownership, as well as the monetization that comes along with that ownership for Web3 social. So I think that's one of the biggest areas that I'm paying attention to right now, just how we're able to leverage on-chain technology to really to realize creative freedom and ownership for creators or even just users in general over their data. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on in Web3 social right now.
Thank you for your thorough answer.
Of course, thank you for the question.
I think I agree with you. I think social in Web3 needs to, kind of differentiate from Web2 a little bit, to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before. I totally agree with you, and I am myself personally really interested into seeing how Web3 social can become in the future.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. I think here's is all my question, and uh, some of the audience may have a well understanding for both projects. So maybe it's now for the Q&A section. For the people who are interested or willing to ask question, please raise your hand and let me see your hand, and we will ask you to the stage. Okay. Please wait. Hello. He tried to connect. Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can. Good morning.
So may you introduce yourself and your question?
Yeah, certainly. My name is Ruben Metcalf. I'm a developer and ne'er-do-well / scallywag from New Zealand, currently living in California. And I have a question around where things are growing in terms of like interoperability and whether or not we might see a repeat of some of the behavioral profiles of certain commercial entities that are entering the space versus some of the open source technologies. And so what I mean by that is, like, if we look at HTTP, which is an early protocol, well, arguably the protocol for the internet, there was no licensing for HTTP, right? Like, it was just, here's a protocol, everyone can use it, and that sort of gave it its power. If we sort of fast forward past that, right, into like the last decade or so, there have been a number of sort of competing protocols for various interoperability in various sort of subdomains, which is in large part what we sort of attribute to the whole Web 2 thing, right, where there's like a centralized platform, there's like a closed data set, and there's like a vertical stack sitting on top of this closed data set, which you can't really access because it's proprietary. And I guess I wonder, to what extent do you see Web3 organizations, whatever, whether it's layer 1, layer 2, whatever, sort of repeating that model in pursuit of shareholder value rather than open source competing standards or alternative standards? And do you think that, like, how do you sort of slice and dice that conversation, given that you guys are working at a pretty low level, but you still got to, like, you know, you got to survive, right? You got to make a company. Like, how do you, when you ask yourself, how do we make this sustainable and easily accessible, whilst also providing shareholder value? What kind of part? How do you answer that question for yourself when you're sort of looking at that, or is that a question that you ask at all?
Yeah, it's definitely a question that I think a lot of Web3 founders have to ask themselves at some point on their roadmap. Because the fact of the matter is, when you execute in the origin of your project, of course, everybody starts out with the philosophical understanding of composability and interoperability and operating in a permissionless manner being really important in Web3. But the fact of the matter is, if you do execute everything in a super entirely decentralized way from the very beginning, it's incredibly expensive and inefficient and can really break your company. So, but at some point you have to ask yourself, at which inflection point do we have a product that's amazing enough for us to really put out there and have everybody build on top of and add to and pull in from different blocks and make with different blocks. And at the same time is able to actually withstand the pressure of being completely open and, permissionless. So at CyberConnect, I think, in the very beginning, where it was when our protocol offered just the basic social features like friend requests, friend lists, NFT verifier, social verifier, and a recommendation engine that's based on mostly your off-chain data, like your social activity data. It was still open and interoperable, but increasingly as time goes on, especially now that we've issued actual smart contracts on chain for developers to build entirely on chain social experiences with, we're more focused on being more open than ever, really. So yeah, no, that's a very valid question. I think everybody does ask themselves that question, and we, like, admittedly in the beginning have to kind of consider, as you said, shareholder value, and consider the burn rate of cash, and consider how sustainable it is financially for us to build things in an expensive but philosophically acceptable way versus when the protocol is more mature and we have more of an audience and a product market fit and things are more stable, that we're able to, really ramp up the effort of aligning ourselves with the philosophical pillars of Web3 of being composable and interoperable. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I totally agree with Wenyi. This is a very important question that we all developers has to ask themselves in all projects. And actually, we are using the W3C standards as the I sorry I didn't get catch your name, but as
Ruben, like the sandwich.
Ruben. Okay. Sorry. So as Ruben mentioned, the HTTP is one of the W3C standards. And so in terms of interoperability, we are not concerned at all. So it's easily interoperable with other projects. And also in terms of sustainability and about shareholder values, um, I think we're doing more of a very Web3 thing because we want to give back users data sovereignty to users themselves. So that's what we are trying to do. And so I would say this is a very Web3 concept, and what we're trying to build and what we're trying to solve, the problem we're trying to solve is basically giving back their what should already been what has already been theirs, and also I think in terms of like open source, the standard we're using is open source, and the technology we're using we're building upon is basically zk starks, which is also kind of open. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
So to clarify, it sounds like these are perhaps ongoing questions that yourselves, like all founders, have to sort of approach, and that the paths that you've chosen thus far are to work with open standards, and rather than going to sort of the powerful proprietary platform approach, whilst also so like, is the defensibility of the model then based on like the layer 2 and the application layer? Would that be fair to say?
If you're talking about zCloak, then I think we're most we consider ourselves the infrastructure layer, so not L2, but yes, we're basically using open standards, and for now, yeah.
I hear that. So this might seem like a really silly question. How do you make money? Where does the money come from?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. So we are actually trying to provide our product as a service. So in the future, we are going to start charging service fees from mostly other projects. And yeah.
Oh, cool. So things that sit on top of the infrastructure that you're building, or
So
different projects entirely, potentially.
no, just the infrastructure we're building, because we're building like this um like this network of the testers and verifiers, that where user is this user centric, so user is connected to both attesters and verifiers, and then this two sides combined is the like the whole picture of our infrastructure. And then on top of that, we're going to provide a service, a platform. It's mostly a um, web a browser extension. So uh, we're going to use that as a service and charge service fee from that. I
Super
hope I made
interesting.
myself clear. Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward to learning more, and I'll cede the floor because I'm sure there's a number of burning questions in the room. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your question.
Sure, you can join our Discord and to go to our website to check out the project. Thank you, Ruben. Okay, let's get to the other questions. Oops. Okay. Connecting. Hi, what's your name, and may you introduce yourself first? Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Steven. My name is Steven.
Okay.
My name is Steven. I just up into this space not quite long, so I don't really know what we'll discuss, but I have so much interest in the topic, decentralized identity. I'm a content creator for a particular Web3 social, and then I've been given a topic to write on digital. It's a decentralized digital identity. So I really want to know more about it and what is its function and how can we what is the difference between the identity in Web3 and the identity in Web2? Do you understand my question?
Yes. I think so. I can try to answer your question. So the identity, basically, I think the identity in Web3 is mostly linked to an address, like a MetaMask address. So like you can't really direct the address to a specific person, and but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that that's how the Web3 identity is for now. And for the Web2 identity that I was talking about earlier, I was mainly talking about how uh, sometimes when you need to use the service from some projects, even in Web3, they need to do KYC, right? Like you're interacting with a DEX platform, or you know uh, exchange platform or something like that. They need to do KYC, and they need to know who you really are, and your just to make sure it's safe. So basically, your many things can form your Web2 identity as well, but I think the most important ones that can be utilized in Web3 are your age, your country or region that you're in, and yeah, maybe some of your I think that those two are the most important thing that can be used in Web3. So to in order to link those things together, a DID comes in, and so DID can contain both part of of the identity that we're talking about. So I'm not sure. Does that answer your question?
I think Annabelle have answered your question, and thank you for the question. And I think and today's AMA is coming to here. And remember to claim your OAT in link phrase the link. And thank you Wenyi and Annabelle to describe their project and to answer all the Q&A question. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jackie. And the proof of participation token is called WEST, which stands for Web3 Status Token. So yeah, feel free to head over to the Link3 page and find your Twitter account in order to claim the WEST. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Winnie. Thank you, everyone.
Hope we can see you next time. Okay, bye.
Bye. Take care.
Okay, bye.